So we're getting all this information about an economy, and the first thing we want to know is the output gap. So we're told potential output y star is 1,000, so we want to know how far we are away from that at the moment. So the first thing to do is just take your expression for y and put in all you know. Just put in all the bits of information that you know. So we know y is equal to c, and we know c is equal to this. So y is equal to CO plus little c, the marginal propensity to consume, times y minus t, plus IO plus GO. Okay? So we know net exports in this case, and taxation is just given, it's not endogenous. So if we rearrange this, in other words, taking our little c times y over to the other side, we end up with y is equal to 1 over 1 minus c, the multiplier, times CO plus IO plus GO minus minus little c times t. Okay, so just moving around terms, we can do this quite easily now. Find out what y actually is and compare it against y star. So that means that y is equal to 1 over 1 minus c. Little c, we're told, is 0.75, so that whole term is 4. We know CO is equal to IO is equal to GO, where they're all equal to 100, so it's going to be 300 minus little c times t, 3/4 of 80, which should be 60. It is. Which allows us to write y is equal to 1200 minus 240, which is 960. Okay, so that's what y actually is, with all this information. And we want to know what the output gap is. Well, the output gap, we just call it OG. That's equal to y star minus y, so it's equal to 1,000 minus 960, so it's equal to 40. So now we know what the output gap is. Okay, so that was part A. Part B then is to close the gap. What do we need? Well, to close the gap through government spending, we know we need to increase y by 40. We need the delta y to be equal to 40. And we know what the multiplier is for government expenditure. The multiplier is 1 over 1 minus c. So what we need is 1 over 1 minus c times delta g to be equal to delta y. Yeah? So we want to increase output by this much. We know through the multiplier theory stuff that when we put in 1 unit of government spending, it doesn't just increase y by 1, it increases it by some multiplier, some multiple of 1. So just putting in our information, we know that 4 times the multiplier, delta g, is going to be equal to delta y, which is 40, which means that delta g is going to be equal to 10. Okay? So to increase output up to the potential output, 1,000, we will increase output by 40, which we can get by increasing g by 10 because of the multiplier effect. Okay, so that's that. But you know, the government also has another option, which is to decrease taxes. So fiscal policy, you have spending and taxes. So we can do the same thing, except we have to remember that when you have taxation, the multiplier for taxation is different. It's minus little c over 1 minus c. And again, we want to do some change in taxes, delta t, and have it be equal to some desired change in output, delta y. Okay? So we know what this is. It's minus 0.75 over 0.25, which gives you 3, or minus 3 rather, times delta t, we don't know, that's what we're looking for, is to be equal to 40, the desired change in y. So we can just find delta t by dividing across by this. And we find that government should reduce taxes by 13.3. to get an increase in output, of national income of 40. So there's one last thing. One last part of this question, which is how much would G and T have to be changed to achieve full output without any change in the deficit? So the deficit is like your own, the government deficit is like your own deficit. You know, it's the difference between your spending, G, and your revenue, T. So we want this to be zero. The change, sorry, to be equal to zero. So what can we do? So we can just use the balanced budget multiplier. Okay? So that tells us that the change in Y is going to equal to 1 over 1 minus C times delta G. So what you get from what you get from increasing G minus say what you lose from decreasing taxes, because if you're going to keep it balanced, you have to keep these things constant. So if you want this to hold, that means that this has to be equal to this. So we can just put in x, say. We say delta y then is going to be equal to 1 over 1 minus c times x, where x is equal to delta g, which is equal to delta t, to keep the budget balanced. So minus c over 1 minus c times x. What we can do then is just simplify this. So what you get if you put these things together, you get 1 minus c over 1 minus c times x. That's just 1. So delta y has to be equal to x. So x is equal to 40. In other words, to keep your budget balanced, you have to, and get this desired increase, you have to increase G and T by 40.